Hey guys, we're here to talk about barbecue pizza. So if you've never barbecued a pizza before, you probably haven't lived. This guy got a nice fluffy pizza crust. I don't know if you can see that from the side. It got kneaded and made yesterday. So yesterday evening I kind of put it all together. And then today, started getting hungry. Pulled it out of the fridge and let it proof a bit, divided it in two, so this was twice as big, and kind of pressed it out without, really punching it down and getting rid of all those bubbles. You want those bubbles a bit, so I put it on this parchment paper, bit of oil, put the dough on there and stretched it out a bit very carefully without deflating it. So the next step, and this can be really hard to do without putting the phone down, is to flip this on the grill. Now I tested this once. This is pizza number 2 because, and I'm glad I did pizza number 1 because I just needed a little more oil on the sheet and it came off, or this one will come off much easier. The other one I had to kind of finagle a bit, though it did turn out really, really well. So I'm gonna flip this on the grill and then I'm gonna start another little video. Okay, so here we are. This was actually pretty painless. I was able to flip it without much trouble. Now, why this works so well, a pizza oven, like a really good one, for that crispy, thin crust Italian style or Neapolitan style pizza, in order to get that, you need a lot of heat. So they quite often use brick ovens that retain a lot of heat, and they're at like 500 or 600 degrees. So your oven, it's kind of tricky to do that. People do put stones in their oven and crank them, but a barbecue gives you that bottom heat, that real high heat, really easily. So this guy got flipped on there, and what I'm going to do is grill the bottom side, and then I'm going to flip it over. And I usually use a set of tongs and a flipper to get it flipped over. Then I throw all the toppings on and I close the lid, and that's generally good. Now it totally depends on your barbecue. If you've got a really hot one, where you can grill a steak no problem with like all kinds of sizzle, you might want to go on low. But if you've got a barbecue like this one that even on high isn't that high, you might want to leave it on, fairly high. So I'm going to try flipping this over, and let's just take a look at the bottom actually. So you can see it's still pretty pale. There isn't really much for color. So actually, I'm going to close the lid. I'm going to give it a minute just to color up on that side. And then I'm going to flip it over and start adding toppings. Alright, so you can see this got really puffy. There's lots of air developing and little pockets around it, which is great. That's going to yield like really nice, chewy, crispy bits. And then when you flip it over, just a little bit of color. You can hear it sizzle, which is great. Little tiny bit of color. Now I'm going to turn, I think my grill's getting nice and hot. I'm going to turn this down because I can always turn it up a little bit later to crisp the bottom. And now I'm going to stop this. I'm going to add all my toppings. I'll show you what it looks like, then we're going to close the lid. Okay, so here's the fully assembled pizza. I went with something a little more unusual, not as conventional, but it's pesto, artichokes, some grilled asparagus, and some caramelized onion. Now, I hope I didn't take too long to make or to get all the toppings on, but I think I'm okay. I'm going to leave this on low just for a minute. I'm going to close the lid. I want to get the cheese to melt, ideally even get a little bit of color on the cheese, and then we'll take it off. So I'm going to close the lid just for a minute and we'll take it. Okay, so that really didn't take very long. The lid was closed for about 2 minutes. And you can see how the cheese got nice and melty and gooey. Though, the bottom's looking good. You can see some color, but I'd honestly like just a little bit more. So I'm going to give it a turn. So notice one side's a little more brown than the other. I'm actually going to turn it up a little bit. I'm going to close the lid and give it 1 or 2 more minutes, and I think this pizza's going to be ready. Okay, it's been about 2, maybe 3 more minutes. Now, that's our finished pizza. Let's take a look at the bottom. Oh yeah, just a hint of like the dark brown maybe a tiny bit of char. That looks awesome. Cheese is definitely gooey. I don't know if it's really cooked on top, but that's definitely okay. That looks great. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide this off onto a cutting board. I just bring the cutting board to the edge of the barbecue, slide it on. I didn't show you this before, but when I flipped the dough onto the grill, I actually had a cutting board under it. It just helps a lot. You'll notice you try to pick up dough on a piece of paper, it just doesn't work very well. So a cutting board or a sheet pan underneath really helps. But I'm going to put it straight onto that cutting board that I'm going to use to slice it up. For this is actually going to be breakfast pizza, which I'm super excited about. Yeah, so if you want the recipe, it's just in the underneath in YouTube. You'll see there's a recipe there for this crust. Works like a charm, and I'm working on a sourdough version, which I'm very much excited about. So I'll let you know when that happens.